Previously on the Rod Pedersen Show.
Breaking news. Philip Rivers is going to always want to play again. Talk to any retired football player. They're always going to want to play again. For the older football, they don't go by what he says. Philip Rivers struggled when he did play. Talk about coming back 2 years out. I remember this. I realized that, and hockey players aren't a whole lot different than football players, but the football players are worse. You got to largely drag them kicking and screaming from the field. And I remember this, Dupes. Do you remember the old swamp dog, Ron Este? I just talked to his wife a couple weeks ago. He was the defensive line coach for the Riders for years, and he felt like family to me. And his wife's Debbie, and they're living down there in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And he won. He was on those Eskimo teams, the 5 in a row, 70s as well, iconic Edmonton team. So the people in Edmonton would know the name Ron Este. He's in the Eskimos Hall of Fame, Canadian Football Hall of Fame, LSU Tigers Hall of Fame. He's in every Hall of Fame. And he was the guy that talked like the water boy in the water boy. Who was the coach he couldn't understand? Was it the coach? Bobby Boucher? Swamp, yeah. We could never understand him. He had this southern drawl. We couldn't understand him. But I remember one time, Este, when he was with us with Saskatchewan, he said he would cut one arm, we'll win one point. We're like, what? You put subtitles under that? And I can't remember. One of the other coaches said he'd cut his arm off to have just one more play.
Get ready for the Rod Pedersen Show.
Absolutely awesome to see you down in Florida, Roddy. Unfortunately, you are at the grind, working. LOL. Enjoy it, man. You deserve it.
How about that?
Listen, please don't feel sorry for me. Darren, do you feel sorry for me that I got to work?
I feel sorry for me.
Exactly. Kind of a life that I could settle into. Oh, yeah.
Fun, sun, and surf. It's the Rod Pedersen Show.
Yes, it is. Hello, Canada and Canadian sports fans in the United States and around the world. It's the RP Show. For those that are watching on TV, that view you just saw is what I'm looking at right now. Unfortunately, you're looking at me live from the beach house, Pompano Beach, Florida. The Stanley Cup. It's an off day. Game number 3 will go Thursday night, and it's a very big Stanley Cup playoff hockey show today. Bill Lindsay will be with us, one of the all-time great Florida Panthers. He is their current radio analyst, and he is from the NHL Network. He'll be with us in hour 2. The Golden Girl, Sarina Taylor, our popular hockey analyst, later on in hour 1. And to kick off the CFL season, our good friend Dave Naylor from the CFL on TSN will be with us later on here in hour 1. Joining us from the NHL's Bermuda Triangle is Darren Moose DuPont. And Moose, before we only got you for the first segment. It's a quick time, not a long time. It's a good time, but I need your help. I need your help because this morning I spoke to a grade 9 class by name, Sheldon Williams Collegiate in Regina, and it was about substance abuse prevention because the #1 weapon against addiction is prevention. If you don't start, you can't get addicted. And when it was done, the kids said, we opened it up for questions. They said, who's the most famous person you ever interviewed? And I said, John Candy. How about that, kids? John Candy. No clue. Darren, I talked with Joe Lozito. I know about me. I'm not vintage. I'm out of touch. What would have impressed a grade 9 student that I could have said that I'd interviewed? Like, I don't even know what would impress these kids these days.
Justin Bieber, maybe. Taylor Swift.
That's the thing. I haven't interviewed any of them.
Wasn't John Candy.
Yeah. So I guess, thank God, we are the preferred television show of the 55-plus demographic. I'm sure they're all very impressed today that Rod interviewed John Candy. But anybody under the age of 45, No clue. Anyways, that's the guest list. And can you hit the quick six show horn, please, Director Jordan? And let's rock and roll. We're going to open up with baseball. Kevin Gausman's strong 7-inning outing Tuesday night came at the perfect time for the Blue Jays in their overworked bullpen. He tied a career high with 13 strikeouts and a 5-1 win over the visiting Houston Astros. But the biggest news coming out of Jaysville Tuesday was that they've demoted struggling righty Alek Manoah to the Florida Complex League on Tuesday. The move comes a day after the 2022 All-Star and Cy Young finalist couldn't get out of the first inning against the Houston Astros in that 11-4 bombing on Monday night. The Florida Complex League. Nobody's ever heard of it, but I think it's where they send players that have a complex, because clearly Alek Manoah has one. And Darren, point two, before we get to the hockey, the merger between the PGA and Saudi Arabia's LIV Tours has shocked the golf world. Canadian golfer Mackenzie Hughes says he found out about the merger on social media the day before the RBC Canadian Open tees off. The Saudi-backed tour kicked off last year, as we know, the same weekend as the Canadian Open, meaning some golfers ditched the tournament for their new employers. Now, you have some intel on this. We're not just hockey and football. As much as you can say, I think you can say something. They're raw. From the golf people, this is insane.
It's really insane. You know, when the news came down yesterday, everybody found out at the same time. It's crazy. Like, even organizers and sponsors and key stakeholders in golf, and especially at the Canadian Open out in Ontario, they found out just 10 minutes prior to it getting released, the press release. You know, that caused the players that are sitting here in Canada at the RBC Canadian Open to have an emergency meeting yesterday afternoon at the golf course at 4 o'clock Eastern. That led to Rory McIlroy having a press conference this morning. I believe that was around 9:30 Eastern, in which he took questions. He wanted to clarify that this isn't a merger between the PGA Tour and LIV. It's the PGA Tour, the DV Tour, and this PIF, which is the fund. And he's kind of, you know, I appreciated Rory for being real. You know, I thought he was real, and he just said, look, like, as much as it sucks, that money's going to find its way into golf anyways, so I've kind of conceded to the fact that the money's going to be here, so we might as well at least have some control as to how it gets spent. So it feels like the PGA Tour players, or at least Rory, a little bit defeated, and now, you know, when you can't beat them, you got to accept it, and I feel like they're kind of getting there.
Sure, well, Rory had a lot to say for himself. He threw a lot of dung at the guys that went to the LIV Tour. So I'm interested to see how that plays out. Yeah. And, hey, good for him for being real, because being real doesn't make you a lot of friends. But, hey, I got enough friends, and maybe Rory's got enough friends. I don't know. Point three, expect the Casilla Center to be rocking tonight when the Miami Heat play their first home game of the NBA Finals against the Denver Nuggets, with the best-of-7 series tied 1-1. The Heat, who beat the Celtics in Boston May 29th to win the Eastern Conference Final in 7, played the first 2 games of the NBA Finals in Denver, of course, earning the split. So it should be fun tonight, but it's a late start, 8:30 Eastern. I won't be there. We got to talk hockey. That's what everybody came here for today. The NHL playoffs resume Thursday night here in South Florida, and the host Panthers will look to become just the 6th team in NHL history to erase a 2-0 deficit and win the Stanley Cup Final. Vegas Golden Knights have won the first 2 games of the series, 5-2 and 7-2. Game 3 will mark the Panthers' first Stanley Cup Final home game since 1996. There is a lot of talk about it. I can't wait. I'm so excited to be there. I've been telling my friends, I've been waiting my whole life to be at a Stanley Cup Final game, and it's going to happen Thursday night, so I can't wait. And I'm not sure that I'm non-biased. I'm not sure Sarina's non-biased. She has her take, and you can't wait to hear that, on where this series has been and where it's going. All I know is I can't wait to be there. I don't know. There's a lot of firsts. How much talk is it generating up there? You're in Canada. You're watching TSN Sportsnet and talking to Joe Sixpack on the street, or Jane Sixpack on the street. How much are they talking about the Stanley Cup Final in Canada?
A little bit. I wouldn't say it's a ton, but a little bit. They're absolutely talking about it. And I think the big thing that I'm hearing about in the conversations I'm having with people is, you know, what's happened to Florida, and are the Panthers out of gas? You know, they've ran into, you know, a conceivable brick wall in the Vegas Golden Knights, their goaltender, Aiden Hill, and that group. That's kind of the conversation here is, people are writing the Panthers off. They're finished. Down 0-2. They've had the long break. They can't recover. So that's kind of the feeling here, at least where I am at, and I would say that probably pretty reflective of Canada. So we'll see if the Panthers can change the narrative tomorrow.
Well, everybody knows that it's going on, the first in Canada, and certainly here because the Panthers are in it. But the first two games have been blowouts, and I don't want to steal any of the thunder of what Sarina has to say, nor her dad, Phil, who's got some interesting takes on this Stanley Cup Finals. So that's coming up next segment. But they don't look like the same team. It's the highest scoring Stanley Cup Final since 1982. That's coming from the game notes. But who cares about that? Vegas is scoring all the goals. This isn't something to brag about. The most interesting thing that I've seen in the last 24 hours is that they're charging $100 for parking for the game. And if you want a preferred spot in lots B or C, it's $125 per game. Thank God. You want to know why I support the Panthers so much? I got the passes. I got the parking pass. I don't have to pay this stuff. The poor fans. The poor fans. And the other thing that I don't understand is, and I'll never understand this, our good friends here that are Panthers season ticket holders aren't even going to the games. They got to work or they can't afford them. Who are the people that are filling the rinks and the arenas in the NBA when we get this deep into the season? Where were you all year? Do the rich people just show up for the league finals? I don't understand that.
I know. I feel like it is. And this is the time for the celebrities to come out. If you're only going to go to a few games, you got to go here. So, we've seen the Brooks Koepkas at the Panther games. We've seen Jeannie Bouchard. This is when the stars come out, right? So they'll scoop up all these tickets and make sure, they're seen and heard at the big games.
I'm so glad to hear you say that.
It's just kind of the way it goes.
Yeah.
But you say prices. I saw on social media, now this might not be a Stanley Cup Final thing, but in Game 2 in Vegas, somebody posted a picture of their cocktail. I think they had a margarita and said it was $44 for a margarita at T-Mobile Arena. I mean, I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it.
People wonder why I don't drink. They didn't even know who Paulina Gretzky was. These kids from Sheldon Williams. So John Candy was almost, it went over like a lead fart. So I said, how about Paulina Gretzky? I shared an elevator ride with Paulina Gretzky this winter at a Panthers game. No clue. Right over their heads. Even the teacher, Sean Dufour, who brought me in to speak to the kids this morning, and this was via Zoom, he goes, she's married to Dustin Johnson? Kids.
The referee?
What the hell do you want? Yeah, the referee. That was the connection. Wow. He said, would you come speak to my grade 9 health class about substance abuse and mental health? I'm like, yeah. They didn't even know who Paulina Gretzky was. I'm starting to wonder what the hell would have impressed them. I have no idea. Maybe I need to start watching Marvel comics or movies. Anyways, to the poll question today for Key Auto Group. Producer Clark came up with this one. Key Auto Group has the largest selection of quality new and pre-owned vehicles in the Parkland area. Cars, trucks, SUVs. Your journey begins at keyautogroup.ca. The question is, where will Patrick Roy be coaching next year? Your options are the Calgary Flames, the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Quebec Rempart, the team with which he just won a Memorial Cup, or other. To be perfectly frank, I voted for other because I have no idea. Did you cast a vote in the Key Auto Group poll, Darren? Where will Patrick Roy be coaching? I haven't.
I will in the break. I'm going to put a vote for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Look, the odds will say that Sheldon Keefe's going to stay in Toronto and Brad Treliving's not going to get rid of him. That's been Treliving's track record, to stick with the coach, let him see it for a year or two, and then move on. But, I don't think Patrick Roy is going to Calgary. I don't. I think, Mitch Love's a better fit there. I think that's the smart play for the Flames. And he's already said he's not going to the Remparts. You had told us, that Simone Gagne's in line to be the coach in Quebec. And so I don't know that Patrick Roy is just going to leave to do nothing. So I think if Toronto opens up, I think Patrick Waugh would be a decent candidate to coach the young kids there.
I'm just checking in with the comments, and they're great, as always. John Ohm in Winnipeg. Hang on. He says, sounds like you need a Spider-Man or Batman outfit for the kids, Rod. Janet, the Four Seasons, says the kids just play video games and YouTube. I don't get it. I don't know. A good friend of mine, a real estate guy by the name of Rob Pedersen, told me one time his kid came running out of his bedroom with his iPad. He's like, Dad, this is your buddy. He had his iPad on YouTube, and it was my face, one of the videos. So that's where you need to find him, I guess. From WQEE Rock, Ryan O'Radio says, what are they teaching these kids these days? LOL. I don't know what would have impressed them. And at this point, I don't even care. CFL game notes. This is all the time we have left for in this segment. Might be the only time we talk CFL today. It's in my commentary today. You might want to go read it at rodpeterson.com. Right now it's running, plus on Sask Radio. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers have the oldest team in the CFL as we enter week 1 of this season, the season kickoff. Saskatchewan Roughriders, the second oldest team. The youngest team are Chris Jones, Edmonton Elks. That should surprise nobody. If Bo Levi Mitchell, my good friend, wins 10 games this year, Darren, he'll hit 100 wins, and he'll be the second youngest to do it behind... Guess who's the youngest player
Doug
to reach
Flutie.
100 career wins in the Canadian? Who'd you say?
Doug Flutie?
Ron Lancaster, the little general.
Whoa!
You think those grade 9 kids know him? He did it at the age 33 years and 10 days. Ron Lancaster. So, yes.
You mean like
our
the
viewers
bar?
in that 55.
Lancasters?
Yeah, who's he? Listen, I'm old, and I didn't even watch Lancaster play. Still got the record, baby. He must have been something. So those are some of the game notes as we kick off. And Calgary and BC have never kicked off a CFL season since 1967. It's the first time since 1967. Calgary and BC are meeting in the CFL lid lifter. How about that? Do we have
That's cool.
a Rick Regan for that? Not a Ronald Reagan, a Rick Regan for that? How about that? Guess not. Football fans, Woody's RV World presents the Summer Football Road Trip presented by the RP Show in Engelheim. Tickets are available now at rodpeterson.com. Trip includes charter transportation from Engelheim, Regina to Calgary and back, June 23rd to the 25th. 2-night accommodations at our host hotel in Calgary, Hotel Cleek, Calgary Airport, with complimentary breakfasts, pre- and post-game parties hosted by me, and a ticket to Calgary and Saskatchewan that night at McMahon Stadium, June 24th. And now Woody's would like you to bring a friend or a loved one on them. Purchase an RV at Woody's, and if you buy a ticket to join us on the football road trip, they'll buy your other on a BOGO. Bring your best bud, your kid, your grandma, your partner, whatever you want. And we'll see you at McMahon. Time's running out. Deadline's approaching. Moose, it's the end of our time. Any last words from you?
Have a lot of fun, enjoy, and man, I can't wait till tomorrow to get back to the Cup Finals and see what the Panthers can do.
Thanks for all of your help, Moose, and have a great day. We'll chat later.
You too.
Our hockey analyst, Sarina Taylor, is in next. We're live from the Beach House in Pompano Beach, Florida, our second home. And on the way, Dave Naylor from the CFL on TSN, and Panthers great Bill Lindsay will be joining us live right here. We are live on the Game Plus television network. We are Atlanta's NHL show on WQEE Radio, podcast, and streaming.
Head to youtube.com/The Rod Peterson Show now. You gotta subscribe. Click the subscribe button for all the content you may have missed.
Woody's RV World presents the Summer Football Road Trip, hosted by The Rod Peterson Show and Engelheim. Tickets now available at rodpeterson.com. Charter transport, accommodations at the beautiful Hotel Cleek, June 23rd to 25th. All the details at rodpeterson.com.
Canadian Centre for Men and Families Alberta supports men through relationship turmoil and breakdown. Men face the realities of relationship breakdown in a way that is unique. These men need a safe place to belong and have meaningful conversations that help equip them to create a better future for themselves and their families. CCMF Alberta programs responsibly address the results of trauma on men's mental health. CCMF Alberta, because children need their fathers too.
Did you know that you can help save a life? And you can start right now.
Stem cells from male donors increase chances of positive outcomes for patients, yet they only make up 40% of our registry.
Today, there are hundreds of people in Canada searching for their life-saving match.
You can be a patient's best hope. Be a hero by registering with Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry now.
I'm Bridget Lacquette. I'm a First Nation Olympic silver medalist, and I'm proud to represent Indigenous hockey players across Canada. Each year, hundreds of Canadians need a stem cell transplant from an unrelated donor to save their life. Anyone can have a hard time finding a stem cell match, but for Indigenous peoples, it can be even more difficult because just over 1% of prospective donors on Canada's stem cell registry are of Indigenous backgrounds. Be a hero. Join me in Hockey Gives Blood in helping to make a life-saving difference to those in need. Register today at blood.ca/beahero.
Here's how your business can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show. All you have to do is contact us, and we will tell you all about the dynamic and exciting marketing opportunities we have, utilizing a fully integrated 360-degree multi-platform. Imagine your business seen and heard across Canada on Game Plus TV and around the world on the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. You will use one of the most overused expressions in sports. You gotta be kidding me. Get your business involved. Contact the Rod Pedersen Show today.
Very special day, live from our Florida home, the Beach House in Pompano Beach, Florida, the home of Lamar Jackson. Day before Game 3 of the Stanley Cup playoffs, and just ahead of our next guest, hockey analyst Sarina Taylor, the Golden Girl, from our text line, 902-518-3033. The text line is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You can bring her on. Rick Sawatsky is watching in Martinsville regarding Patrick Roy going to the Leafs. He says Roy and Shanahan working together. All I can see is Shanny tackling Roy in the playoffs. Get some thoughts on that. And Jim Wagner watching in Balgoni regarding me speaking to the kids, Sheldon Williams School today, and they didn't get any of my references. He says, I'll take vintage any day. Youngsters, good grief. He says, I'm not in the 55-plus group yet, but I'm getting up there. We get you and love you, Roddy. Thank you, Jim. I appreciate that. At least somebody gets me. I sit here and go, why would you ask me to come here if you have no idea what I'm talking about? Well, you get that.
I get that every day. I never know what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, Patrick Roy, can we start there before we get to the Stanley Cup final? You watched the Memorial Cup with me. He did a great job. He always does a great job. Where do you think this Patrick Roy thing's going to end?
I doubt it'll end in Toronto.
Yeah?
I doubt that you're going to have a true hab like Patrick Roy coach the Leafs. Serge Savard went and worked, but no, was it Serge Savard? No, it was Ken Dryden. My bad. Ken Dryden went and did it, which shocked me. Having said that, Patrick Roy is actually French. I'd have a hard time believing he goes and works for the Leafs.
Well, I asked you the other day if you would hire Patrick Roy, and within a second, absolutely. So what do you think the deal is on him, that he's not in the NHL? Yet, anyways, as of today.
You know, I'm not really sure. I mean, he's definitely proven his worth in junior hockey. I'm not really sure. Maybe he just doesn't want to. Has anybody thought about that being an option? Maybe he doesn't want to.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I've been speaking to the Roy camp. What I read is very interesting to me that Greg Drinnan would take vacation during the Memorial Cup. But whatever, the #1 reporter and blogger in junior hockey. But Roy said in Kamloops last week he's stepping down and handing the reins to Simon Gagne. Unless he's done, Sarina, but I don't think he's done. That's what I don't understand.
Well, I think the thing with him is he's not a drama guy.
No.
So you're never really going to get probably a straight up, this is what I'm doing, this is what I want to do. He keeps it out of the spotlight. So I would suspect that he's just keeping it under wraps. He might already have something lined up. He probably does.
Ryan in Saratoga, New York says, I think Roy is staying put in Quebec, but that's just my humble opinion. Leanne says, you think he still wants to keep riding the buses? That would be dedication. There's a lot of guys like that. Kevin Kaminsky, James Patrick, John Paddock. So, yeah, I guess we'll find out, but nobody really seems to know. Dale in Winnipeg says, not all the kids are on the video games. My son Jack doesn't have a game system. He does have 2 Jeeps, a camper in the woods. It's what we teach. And here we go to the Stanley Cup Final. Ted in Red Deer says, Sarina and Rod, after watching Jack Eichel for an extended time, he's better than I thought. I think he's a top 10 player for sure. Not sure about top 5. Thoughts?
It's funny because I just looked at you yesterday and said, why is everybody talking about how great Jack Eichel's been in the playoffs? And I had the same conversation with my dad this morning because I personally feel like Marchessault is the reason that they're where they're at right now, not Jack Eichel. But everything is always focused on Jack Eichel. It's like society has to prove why Jack Eichel was the winner or why Vegas was the winner of that trade. It makes no sense to me. He's not the best player on the team. Yes, he's talented. I've never disputed that. But he's lazy and unmotivated. He just knows where Marchessault is going to be all the time. He puts the puck where he needs to put it. He's doing a great job of that, but I don't think he's as great as everybody thinks he is.
Skilled, yes. I mean, I was watching a game. I think I've said this on the air before, but I'll say it again. Ted, you might have been watching, you might not have, but I was watching a game in the Saddle Dome in the press box this winter with Perry Shockey was right beside me, the longtime junior coach and NHL scout. And Eichel stick handled through the entire Flames team. Not that that's not impressive because everybody does that to the Flames, but he came out to the blue line and backhanded the puck so hard we couldn't even see it. He didn't score, but we were like, whoa. But it's not a skills competition. Is this going to end with Eichel getting a Stanley Cup, though?
Probably. I mean, I said the same thing about Patrick Kane. He's skilled, but is he really that great of a team player? That's why Jonathan Toews was always the captain and Kane never was. That's the difference right there.
Craig Smith, our director of scouting, writes in and says, Eichel is very skilled. That's the thing. And I don't want to sit here and bash Jack Eichel. But gosh knows he's had enough of that over his career, particularly going back to Buffalo. I guess maybe, Sarina, was he the missing piece for Vegas?
No.
We're not saying he's a bad player.
No, I don't think he was the missing piece. I think Vegas is getting it done without him regardless. I just think that they have such a strong team overall that's why everything's good. I mean, Eichel's not hurting them. So if a guy's not hurting you in the playoffs, I'd say that's a pretty good thing. Unlike his counterpart, who is hurting his
Matthew
team.
Tkachuk.
Absolutely.
So when Tkachuk folded up Eichel the other night in Game 2, and you and I watched it, you let out a very sinister laugh.
Yeah, I always love me a good hockey hit. There was nothing wrong with that hit. Tkachuk was in the right place at the right time, but how does Eichel cut across center ice like that? This is what you learn when you're 5 years old. And he cut right across center. I'm like, well, what did you expect to have happen?
And after the game, he did say that. He goes, I put myself in position to be hit like that.
Correct. He didn't cry about it. He didn't cry foul. He took it like a man.
From Randy in the Peg says maybe top 50 for Jack Eichel. Leanne says people just want to legitimize why he was drafted number 2 behind McDavid. Hey, look, it looks like within a couple weeks or a week, he's going to have more Stanley Cups than Connor McDavid. So nobody don't need to legitimize anything. I can see why he went that high.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. At the time, it was like, It's just like next year's draft is going to be. You all know who's going number 1, and then it's like what's going to happen in the top 5 after that. We all know.
Allie in Texarkana says, hey, Sarina, potentially your biggest fan. Certainly in Texarkana, she's your biggest fan.
She's probably my only fan.
Stacy Champagne, watching at World Access World Headquarters. Stacy says, Phil Kessel is unthawing the hot dogs for the Cup Selly. Again, he hasn't played. He's had the best seat. But I just feel like Vegas was ready for this. And just to get serious for a second, we got to quote your dad, Phil. And Sarina will be back later in hour 2, just so you know, following up Bill Lindsay. But he said this has been the most boring Stanley Cup final. Maybe you should encapsulate to the viewers what he said, not me. You talked to him.
Well, he said he feels this is the most boring Stanley Cup final that in years, probably ever. And I think a lot of it is mostly because, and he said this, and I agreed with him. We had this full conversation. You've got the weakest team out of the East that was in the playoffs playing probably the strongest team from the West. You're not going to get a humdinger of a Stanley Cup final. Like my dad said, it's like a bunch of grown men playing little boys right now. It's just, Florida is not a talented hockey team. They're not. They got here by fluke. Let's be honest. They're not the best team in the East, not even close. They beat some solid teams, but the fact that they got here, they kind of fluked it out. They're not ready. They're never going to be ready. Vegas is manhandling them.
Well, you didn't hear it earlier, but Darren was on. I said, what's the buzz in Canada? And he said that Florida's run out of gas. Did you use my term? The clock struck midnight on this Cinderella team. It all kind of looks like that. Like, do you expect they win a game the rest of the way?
Well, and that's interesting, because if somebody was to come from the outside and look at this series, you would say Florida would never win a game. However, you can never count these guys out. They're not the best team, yet they still scraped into the playoffs. They still scraped past Boston in Game 7 of overtime. They scraped past the Leafs. They're capable of winning, but if Vegas stays the way they're playing, forget it.
Now, I don't think there's any need to hide this. We talked about the Florida Panthers fans being upset at officiating. You had a take on that.
When I woke up and saw Panthers fans were upset with officiating, I mean, Rod just showed me something on his phone, and I held my hand up like I literally had no words. And I'm like, you got where you are because of the officiating. And now you're complaining about the officiating? First of all, stay out of the crease. If you don't want the other team's goaltender to hack at you, get out of his crease. That's going to happen anywhere. Secondly, stop taking dumb penalties after the play. How do you have a guy that wears a letter get 3 10-minute misconducts in the first 2 games of the Stanley Cup final? A leader, he is not.
But they weren't complaining what the hand pass against Boston in Game 5.
Right.
They weren't complaining the Leafs disallowed goal in Game 5.
Exactly.
This is what you're saying.
Well, here's the problem. They actually don't, generally speaking, the average public here doesn't know the rules enough to know one way or another. In fact, my chiropractor said to me yesterday, he goes, I have a question about the rules. He goes, I don't know anything about hockey, but I know the basics. So my question is this: why do they call some cross-checking penalties and some not? And I said, what a valid question, because we don't even know the answer. But he's like, I don't pretend to know anything about the sport. The problem is you have people here that don't know anything about the sport that think they do. If you've never played the game or you've never coached it, it's just different. You don't have any idea. It's like somebody telling me that they know what it's like to be a runner if they've never run a marathon. Well, I ran a half. No, bro, it ain't the same.
John Ohm says, let's wait for Game 3 till we say it's the worst NHL finals ever. Ask me Thursday. That's why it's going to be so exciting to be in the building, because, listen, 5-2 and 7-2, it has been the most boring final. Like, it's one thing to be sweep, but close games, these aren't even close games.
Because the teams aren't close. Let's be honest, Florida has no business being in the final.
Yeah, and Craig Smith, our director of scouting, says, and clear the front of the net so Bob can see. I don't care who you are, you can't stop what you can't see.
The conversation we had, and I think I said it on this show, I'm going to be like Don Cherry, roll it back. Before the Stanley Cup Finals started, I said Marchessault and Mark Stone are going to get in front of the net, and Bobrovsky's not going to be able to stop it. The first goal, Marchessault was in front of the net. He's got 3 goals, or whatever he's got, from being in front of the net. Or guys were screening Bobrovsky. That's the difference. Bobrovsky never faced that against Carolina. Carolina rolled over. That's why Florida can't handle it. They're just not strong enough.
Corey in Tallahassee, Florida, watching from the Hockey Club podcast, says she's spot on again. Stop. You're going to get her head, you're going to pump her head too big.
We've already had to widen the door frame at our house. When that thing comes through the door.
This thing?
Thank you, Corey.
Yeah. Okay, we'll let you go, and you'll be back in hour 2.
I will. Now I got to follow up Bill Lindsay.
Yes, exactly.
Guys, stick around. He's the best.
Bill Lindsay coming up in hour 2. Florida Panthers great current NHL network analyst Dave Naylor from the CFL on TSN when we return in the Week 1 kickoff in the Canadian Football League. We're live from the Pompano Beach House, Pompano Beach, Florida, on the Game Plus Television Network, WQEE Radio, podcast, and streaming.
Head to youtube.com/The Rod Pedersen Show now. You gotta subscribe. Click the subscribe button for all the content you may have missed.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Capable of doing more. More speed, more reps, more commitment to getting every detail perfect. And that's why it's important we never miss a donation appointment. Blood and plasma donors are needed every day in Canada to support thousands of patients that rely on Canada's lifeline. We're asking you to join the Hockey Gives Blood Partners for Life team. Join today by downloading the Give Blood app or book online at blood.ca/HGB.
Does this look familiar? Your fans deserve an incredible arena experience. It's time for an upgrade. Stunning graphics. Revenue opportunities are just the beginning with our in-venue display systems and scoring technology. Let us help you find the best solution for your facility. DDG, always delivering the best fan experience.
Gotta hit the beat. Gotta hit the beat. Gotta hit the
Download Dark Horse Bets today.
I gotta hit the beat.
Day between games here in South Florida, but Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Final goes Thursday night at FLA Live Arena. We're pausing the hockey discussion to talk a little football because, let's be honest, it's Christmas for CFL fans. It's week 1. Dave Naylor joins us from the CFL on TSN. Thursday night, it all gets going. BC Lions to the Calgary Stampeders. And David, thanks. It's been far too long. Let me ask you this, man. What are the biggest storylines here in week 1 that you've identified?
Well, I got to think that Hamilton at Winnipeg, given the history of those two teams meeting in 2 of the last 3 Grey Cups, Winnipeg losing, in the dying seconds from going 3 in a row, and Hamilton retooling for a season in which they will host the Grey Cup, in which they have landed Bo Levi Mitchell, built around him, and hope to be hosting the Grey Cup this time on their home field in November. That's the most intriguing one to me. And I think the Bombers, there hasn't been a lot of changes there, but that also makes them intriguing. We've always seen organizations in football that hold on too long with the stars they love. And I'm not saying the Bombers are there. I'm just saying they got a lot of guys whose ages start with 3. And that happens fast in football, that it can start to affect you. And you've probably heard coaches or GMs say things like, I'd rather get rid of a guy a year early than a guy a year late, which is sometimes why they part with players when fans are like, what? We're losing so-and-so. Well, the Bombers have taken the opposite approach. I mean, they keep the band together. And when you watch them the last 2 seasons, you can see why. But I'm intrigued to see whether Father Time might be creeping into the dominance that they've had over the last 2.5 seasons.
By the way, for Ticats fans, Bet Regal's Ticats watch party Friday night at the End Zone Bar and Grill, 1305 Main Street in Hamilton. Coming out to meet Sean Thomas Erlington, Dylan Wynn, Pigskin Pete, and the Ticats dance and cheer team. That's the watch party presented by Bet Regal and the Ticats on Friday night. Our director of scouting, Craig Smith's written in and says, Dave Naylor, great story on Chad Kelly. What do you got on the Argos quarterback? What did you unearth, David?
Well, it was funny. We had a producer at TSN called me back in, I guess, late February and said, what would you think of trying to get Jim and Chad Kelly together and interview them together? And the first thing I didn't really know is what was their relationship, because Chad has, tested people's patience in his life with some of the things that he's done. And I phoned around and I heard their relationship was pretty good. And so we approached Chad about this and said, what would you think if we sat you and your uncle down together and interview guys together? And he said, wow, no one's ever done that before. And I didn't know whether he was being sarcastic when he said it, but he wasn't. He meant no one has ever done that before. So we said, what would you think? And he kind of liked the idea. And we got a note back from the Argos a couple days later that said 2 p.m., Jim Kelly's house in Orchard Park, New York, April 3rd. And that's where we showed up. And I didn't know what kind of Jim Kelly we were going to encounter. He's had 4 bouts with cancer. In his own words, I lost 4 Super Bowls, but I kicked cancer's ass 4 times. And I told him that's a better game to be 4-0 in. But he was full on. He's a 100-watt light bulb. I mean, from the moment we walked in till we left 4.5 hours, he was completely engaged with us. And it was interesting. In the piece, he actually says, I would not have done this if you'd called me a couple of years ago because of where Chad was. And I think it was a big commitment for Jim to sit on camera and talk about both the challenges that Chad Kelly has faced in his life and the opportunities. But what Chad Kelly really told us is that, he grew up thinking that, hey, if I'm good at football, that's all it's going to matter, kind of. He was an all-in football guy. He was 4-time punt, pass, and kick national champion. He grew up in Western New York with 12 on his chest and Kelly on his back, and that comes with a lot of pressure and a lot of expectations. And he's had a lot of times he reacted to things that were said to him, often not during games, but in other places where people would say things about him or his dad or his uncle, and he would engage with them. But he's in his words, he says he has cleaned up the distractions in his life, the people who he doesn't need to be associated with. He's done a lot of work on his own mental health. And it was a pretty quiet year for him as the backup quarterback in the Toronto Argonauts. He had a very clean year off the field. And I think, as Jim says, that's always been the question for Chad. No one's ever doubted his ability to make plays, read defenses, throw the football. When we were doing our research on this piece, we looked at the moment that he was drafted at the final pick of the draft in I think it was 2015 by the Denver Broncos. And Mike Mayock, who's on the draft coverage, says very pointedly, this is a first or second round talent if it wasn't for the health and character questions, because he had some injuries in college and, of course, certainly had some character questions surrounding him at the time of the draft. So I'm very much pulling for Chad Kelly. I'm not necessarily saying I'm an Argos fan, but I want Chad Kelly, the human being, the person, to succeed in the Canadian Football League. I think it would be a win-win for him. And the league needs a star. The league needs some quarterback stars, guys you don't want to miss. And Chad Kelly has that kind of ability. Make no question. Things are really, the table is set for him now. It's kind of all up to him.
And by the way, Craig Smith, whom you know, our director of scouting, says, I'm not an Argo fan, but I'm cheering for Kelly. Similar to what you're saying. Could be a hell of a story there. Hopefully Canadians pick up and pay attention.
We got a lot of people in Western New York say that, who have seen the piece and know Chad's story and watched him grow up and saying, hey, I'm cheering for the Argos because of Chad Kelly.
Well, and there's a lot of people in South Florida following the CFL. We're all excited because CBS Sports Network, we get it. It's not much different from the ESPN deal. The streaming was great in the preseason. I'm excited about that. And there's a lot of Chris Jones guys down here, Dave. He introduced me to them all. And they're pulling for his guy there in Edmonton. You're smiling already. Man, I'm just riveted to see how this is going to turn out. That game Sunday night, which I'll be at Commonwealth, it's a game of the week, man. It ain't even close in my mind. Riders at Elks.
I had a chance to talk to Chris yesterday, just kind of a end of training camp preseason chat. We were just speaking informally about the way his team has come together. And I told him I thought it was interesting. We did our top 50 CFL players show, and we had two guys on the top 50 list. And I should be honest, I didn't vote for either of them. But we had 25 voters, and that was Kevin Brown and Dylan Mitchell, two guys who were in the league for half a season. Now, often when we do that vote, people won't vote for somebody who hasn't, played a full season. And they say, okay, the sample size, because it's really hard to come up with, the players you're going to leave off your ballot, which is why neither of those guys made my ballot. But I said to Chris, I said, that's impressive. The two guys that you uncovered last year and played half a season, both got on our top 50 list. Now, it doesn't matter if they can't carry it into 2023, but there's that Chris Jones essentially was running a year-long training camp last year, right? I think we all knew what that was about. And I think when you look at what they've put on offense, particularly around Taylor Cornelius, who is a really unique quarterback in the CFL, Rod, like, you give me the list of successful CFL quarterbacks over 6'3". There, I just gave it to you. Go look it up. Like, all the guys you think might be over 6'3", they're not. And I mean, the high water mark for, exceptionally tall quarterbacks in the CFL might have been Quentin Porter in Hamilton about a decade ago, and I'm not sure he had a 500 record. He's also, a long striding running quarterback, which we don't see very often. I had somebody tell me he thought he should have been a mid-round pick in the NFL, based on his arm and his ability to throw the football. So we know year number 3 is always that year where quarterbacks kind of take a great leap forward in the CFL. We've got Jake Mayer going into year number 3. We've got Taylor Cornelius going into year number 3. And look, I think this quarterback class could really be appealing by the end of the year, but there's a lot of questions to be answered about a lot of these guys who are either coming back from injuries or who haven't done it long enough to be sure, or guys who are getting their first opportunities to really run an offense, say like a Chad Kelly in Toronto.
Right. Well, at some point you need the changing of the guard. Maybe this is it. David, thank you for the time. We'll be watching as always. I appreciate you.
Hey, look forward to catching up with you during the season, Rod. Thanks for having me.
The CFL on TSN's David Naylor. We'll be back with a sports update and audience takeover. And then in hour 2, Bill Lindsay, Panthers great, and our hockey analyst, Sarina Taylor. We're live from the Beach House in Pompano Beach, Florida, on the Game Plus Television Network, WQEE Radio, podcast, and streaming.
Have you subscribed to the Rod Pedersen Show YouTube channel yet? Head to youtube.com/The Rod Pedersen Show now.
Woody's RV World presents the Summer Football Road Trip, hosted by the Rod Pedersen Show and Engelheim. Tickets now available at rodpedersen.com. Charter transport, accommodations at the beautiful Hotel Clique, June 23rd to 25th. All the details at rodpedersen.com.
Canadian Centre for Men and Families Alberta supports men through relationship turmoil and breakdown. Men face the realities of relationship breakdown in a way that is unique. These men need a safe place to belong and have meaningful conversations that help equip them to create a better future for themselves and their families. CCMF Alberta programs responsibly address the results of trauma on men's mental health. CCMF Alberta, because children need their fathers too.
Nestled in the scenic Qu'Appelle Valley, just 20 minutes northwest of Regina, is one of the finest golf courses in all of Saskatchewan, the Deer Valley Golf Club. The clubhouse has a full-service restaurant, and customers can enjoy a casual dining experience with spectacular views of the golf course and valley. A fully stocked golf shop, staffed by PGA of Canada professionals, is equipped to meet all of your golf apparel and equipment needs. Book your tee time, family event, or corporate tournament today at the Deer Valley Golf Club. Call 306-731-1445.
Does this look familiar? Your fans deserve an incredible arena experience. It's time for an upgrade. Stunning graphics. Revenue opportunities are just the beginning with our in-venue display systems and scoring technology. Let us help you find the best solution for your facility. BDG, always delivering the best fan experience.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
All right, we are broadcasting live from that beautiful spot, Pompano Beach, Florida. We are specifically at the beach house. And before I jump into a sports update, producer Clark, while I still have you, Brian Enns has written in from Red Deer, and he says, "Hi, guys, Game Plus channel is not working through TELUS here in Red Deer." Can you spin around and have a look at the TV screen? Are we on Game Plus right now, or are we not? Not like it changes anything. Yeah, we are. Apparently it's a Red Deer thing. Not an us thing nor a Game Plus thing. But thank you for the information on that. A sports update before I delve back into the comments. The Winnipeg Sea Bears overcame a furious rally in target score time by the Vancouver Bandits to earn a 106-103 victory Tuesday night in Canadian Elite Basketball League play. Again, the Winnipeg Sea Bears won 106-103 over the Vancouver Bandits, and that game was in Vancouver. Meanwhile, the Vancouver Whitecaps and CF Montreal battle for Canadian soccer supremacy tonight at BC Place in Vancouver. The Whitecaps are coming for their second straight Canadian championship, The winner of tonight's game will receive the Voyageurs Cup and a berth into the CONCACAF Champions League final. And the Toronto Blue Jays, fresh off a 5-1 win over the Houston Astros, seek to continue their success tonight in the third game of a 4-game series against the Texas squad. Righty Chris Bassett starts for the Blue Jays, while the Astros counter with Ronel Blanco. Toronto has won 5 of its last 6 and sits 4th in the American League East. This sports update is for Landmark Cinemas. In theaters June 23rd, The Flash. Worlds collide in The Flash when Barry uses his superpowers to travel back in time in order to change the events of the past. But when his attempt to save his family inadvertently alters the future, Barry becomes trapped in a reality in which General Zod has returned, threatening annihilation. And there are no superheroes to turn to. That is, unless Barry can coax a very different Batman out of retirement and rescue an imprisoned Kryptonian. Albeit not the one he's looking for. Wow, that sounds amazing. The Flash in theaters June 23rd. To the 902 text line, brought to you by Progressive Insurance, 902-518-3033. Bear with me. Brian in Beausejour, Manitoba writes in and says, Ron, I agree with you on CJOB Winnipeg's slogan, Information Superstation. It fits. However, sorry to disappoint you, it's been changed to Winnipeg's news and information leader. Meh. Yeah, no kidding. Well, I'm sure they paid some fancy consultant thousands of dollars to come up with that. No longer Manitoba's information superstation, now Winnipeg's news and information leader. And by the way, howdy to everybody watching in Winnipeg right now on Bell MTS Cable Channel 1190. Where we are carried there in the Manitoba capital. Oh, yes. Jeff, the Stamps fan, pointing out the Iron Sheik passing away today. Oh, we're all over it. At the age of 81. Our crew, the world's fastest ground crew, the IKS producers, producer Clark Jordan, they were looking it up. Apparently, he does not have any other name other than the Iron Sheik. That's what his obituary says. The Iron Sheik passing at the age of 81. From Wayne in Victoria, BC, he says, good information from Dave Naylor. I would love to see that interview with Chad and Jim Kelly. I'm sure it'll air at some point, the CFL on TSN coverage this weekend. Last minute of play in hour 1. Any signs of Bill Lindsay? Oh, boy. You might be getting a double dose of the Golden Girl to open up hour 2. And her NHL hot takes. Bill Lindsay will be here. He's just not here yet. My guess is he'll come striding through the doors in the next break. Leanne writes in, she says, if given the chance, Jake Dolegala, backup quarterback for Saskatchewan, is bigger than Cornelius. Big arm, too. He could be the future starter of the Riders with some time behind Harris. Hey, yeah, cool, but he's not starting now. So let's see what Trevor Harris can do. Everybody always wants to look ahead. One day at a time. But I get what she's saying. Hour 2 coming up after this brief pause on Game Plus and the Key WQEE Radio.
Head to youtube.com/The Rod Pedersen Show now. You gotta subscribe. Click the subscribe button for all the content you may have missed.
Selection, service, price, parts, and knowledge. That's the Woody's RV World difference. With 7 locations in Western Canada, there's always one nearby. Visit us today or at woodysrv.com. If adventure awaits, Woody's RV World is with you all the way.
Is it time to take your event online? Bring it to IKS Live. We've got a fully customized virtual event platform with remote guest support for your next fundraiser, talk show, conference, performance, and more. IKS Live offers live streaming to Facebook Live and YouTube and pre-recorded capabilities, both in our studio with green screen available and on location with pre-production and post-production services. Visit us at ikslive.ca.
Canadian Centre for Men and Families Alberta supports men through relationship turmoil and breakdown. Men face the realities of relationship breakdown in a way that is unique. These men need a safe place to belong and have meaningful conversations that help equip them to create a better future for themselves and their families. CCMF Alberta programs responsibly address the results of trauma on men's mental health. CCMF Alberta, because children need their fathers too.
Gotta hit the beat. Gotta hit the beat. Gotta hit the
Download Dark Horse Bets today.
I gotta hit the beat.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Absolutely awesome to see you down in Florida, Roddy. Unfortunately, you are at the grind. Working. LOL. Enjoy it, man. You deserve it.
How about that?
Listen, please don't feel sorry for me. Darren, do you feel sorry for me that I got to work?
I feel sorry for me.
Exactly. Kind of a life that I could settle into.
Hell yeah.
Fun, sun, and surf. It's the Rod Pedersen Show.
That's right. Thank you very much, Rick Regan. We are live at our Florida second home, the Beach House, Pompano Beach, Florida. If you're coming down here at any time, maybe for the Stanley Cup Final, maybe a holiday, come on down to the Beach House in Pompano Beach, Florida, and ask for Thad. Okay, he'd love that. It is hour 2 of your favorite daytime sports talk show. We're coming at you live on the Game Plus television network, also WQEE Radio. We are Atlanta's NHL show. Podcast and streaming. We've had a lot of fun. We can bring in our next guest. Sarina Taylor returns in hour 2. How about this? The joys of live broadcasting. Sarina, do you remember?
Yeah, always. There's always something that was going to happen.
Canada's first ever major junior hockey play-by-play announcer from the female gender, Sarina Taylor, joining us here to talk Stanley Cup. Bill Lindsay twice confirming that he would be here. What is going to be fun about this? We're just going to get down and dirty with some fun talk. Not just sports talk, but talk. I want to engage the viewers. For some reason, I know why, they find you very entertaining. Very engaging guests that you are. Do you want to tell them it's not that easy to get in and out of here? I mean, you've lived here, what, 5-6 years? Talk about the Beach House in this area here in Pompano Beach, if you don't mind.
Basically, the Beach House obviously is at the beach. There's like, you pretty much have to park in a parking structure. Now, Bill, if he's coming here, a lot of times he brings his like 92-year-old father. So that's Junie, yeah. So if Junie's coming, it's from, granted, Junie can move around a lot better than most people, 30 years younger than him.
And he's got a hell of an appetite.
Yes. This guy knows what's going on.
Bill Lindsay's dad, Junie. It's a great story. If and when Bill shows up today, we'll ask him about his dad. And he brought his wife down here the last time, and we all had lunch together, and it was fantastic. Hey, Sarina's scheduled to be with us for a couple of segments here, but clearly I have no idea where it's going with Bill not here. And Chris Sanford's supposed to be here from the Bronx. Do you want to talk about Chris Sanford while we have a minute?
Is a good friend of ours, and that's another one that'll call a spade a spade. Not quite as brutally honest as I will, but yeah, Chris is a beauty.
It's why we're friends.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing. So this morning I was speaking to Sheldon Williams Collegiate. That's a high school in Regina, grade 9s, about mental health and addiction prevention. And the teacher is an old, well, he still is, I think, a WHL linesman, Sean Dufour. He goes, I admire how you've handled your recovery on the public stage. And I was like, well, I don't know any other way how to act. I've had a public life since I was in high school. But this life of being on a live wire on national television, not knowing when your guests are in and out, it is a little stressful.
It's a lot.
You know, yeah, it is. So I appreciate you.
Here comes Billy. We'll do a jump and chase here. Yeah.
How about that? Okay, there are questions for you, though, so you're coming back this hour. You're okay with it?
Here. You want to jump in?
Hey, Billy. How are you? Good to see you, man. Yeah. All right. So here he is. You can slide in there. Yeah.
Yeah. Billy
on the fly.
Yeah, we're going to change on the fly here.
You got the whole crew with you?
Huh?
You got the whole crew with you?
No.
Just Billy? Okay.
All right.
The man who I still believe scored the biggest goal in Florida Panthers history, Panthers radio analyst. You can throw them on, guys. Let's pull that mic. You know how to work these things after this amount.
We're good to go.
I think you've been a broadcaster longer than you were a hockey player.
Yeah, it's getting there. Yeah, I believe that's true.
Right?
It's been a while.
Yeah. Did you run in here? Or are you out of breath? Do you need to catch your breath?
A1A construction again.
That's what it was. We were just saying it's not easy to get in.
I had to pull around a guy's taking pictures of my license plate, so.
I'll pay the ticket. Send it to me.
What's he gonna do?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'll say this again. Bill, now national television star in your one-half native land of Canada, because the NHL network's being picked up in the afternoons on Sportsnet. So if they didn't know who you were before, they will now. But of course they know who you are. What is a schedule of a guy like you like on in between games of a Stanley Cup final like this?
Yeah, it's just traveling with the team. So you get back. We left yesterday at 11 o'clock Vegas time, 2 o'clock here. Fly in 6 o'clock. Get in, come here, do some interviews, do some phone interviews. Get down, you get coaches sound when you can, when they're at the practice, and get all the media you can, all the information, digest that, do a bunch of interviews, get ready for the game, do your homework for the game, and when the game
Here
starts,
we are.
Away you go again.
So that's what you're doing today? Are you covering news conferences and skates today?
Not today. I haven't been there. I'll go down. I'll go. Today's kind of a chill day after the travel day yesterday. We got the coach's sound before we left in the morning. He was available in Vegas for us before we got on the plane. So talked to Paul before we got on the plane. Traveled here, got some dinner last night, and trying to change time zones again. It gets a little dicey.
It's the Pacific out there, right?
Yeah, so you go 3 hours this way, 3 hours that way. It gets a little challenging, the time zones.
Well, folks, I got a million questions, and Sarina does too, for Bill. So our text line for Progressive Insurance, if you got a question, get him in now, because I'll fill it up with Bill. 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. We're live on Game Plus Television, WQEE Radio in Atlanta, where we are, Atlanta's NHL show, podcast and streaming. When I bring up you in 1996, look, I spoke to a grade 9 class today about mental health and addiction prevention. They said, who's the most famous person you ever interviewed? I said, John Candy.
Nice. That is a good
Not
one.
to them. They didn't know. No idea, Bill.
Yeah.
So this guy in 96 scored the biggest goal in Panthers history. Do you agree with me it still stands as the biggest goal in Panthers history?
I don't know. Kachuk's got some big ones now back in the history. So it's,
you're just being modest.
It's my moment in time. It was good for 96. We built it up. It was a big goal. We've had some good ones along the way.
Yeah.
Kachuk for Hagee. Game 7 against Boston, that has to be a big goal, but you can measure in different
So they'll never take it away from you.
You can't take it away from us.
Okay.
You can't take it away from that team. Now we're trying to win a Stanley Cup as a group, as another milestone. But that initial team in the first 3 years and get to the Stanley Cup in year 3, that was our identity. This finally getting back. Now this team has its own identity. Scrape and claw to get in the playoffs. Get this magic carpet ride. So there's comparables, but the fan base is back, the juice is back, the energy from that point. That we're getting the South Florida hockey vibe back like it was in the early 90s.
Well, that's my point. And what you should know is we are the #1 rated show in Canada for the age 55 plus in this time slot. We're live on Game Plus. So if the kids don't know who we are, who cares? Or John Candy. The older people do.
Yes.
And my point is...
You're going the wrong way.
Right. That's what I said. Planes, trains, and automobiles. How do you kids not know this? How do they know which way we're going, right?
That's correct.
Bill, compare the 96 Stanley Cup as a player to as a broadcaster. I know it doesn't really compare, but what's it like for you? Emotions, schedule, expectations. Compare the two.
96, so you're a player, you're into it, and you're just inundated with media as a player. You're just the requests, families. We went to Game 7 against Pittsburgh. It just felt, I would have wished I would have gotten a second chance to play for a Stanley Cup, because everything's just swirling in your head. And it was just 2 days off, and they dropped the puck, and we were down 2-0 against Colorado. Could never fight our way back into that series. It's the one series, not 9 days like the Panthers, but 3 or 4 days just to kind of breathe a little bit. Never got the chance to breathe. That's why I would have liked to have a second chance at it, because for me, it was just, everything was just happening at warp speed, and we just never caught up. But it was a thrill of a lifetime. It's a dream. You play your whole life to get there, to get that opportunity. And so to actually get that opportunity was something that was special. You never come around. So as a broadcaster now, to be part of an organization, I've never touched the Stanley Cup. The only way I would ever touch it is if this Panther team ends up winning a cup. So
yeah, go ahead, Rod.
I'm living the dream vicariously.
I know you are.
Again, through this team as a broadcaster. It's special because I've been with the organization for so long. It's different than being a player, but it's still special in its own way.
It was a massive mismatch in 1996, though, as you know. 3 Hall of Famers on that Colorado team. You guys had, is Beazer in the Hall of Fame?
Oh, no, not yet. No, American Hall of Fame.
I don't think you had one on your team. That was a mismatch, more than this one is.
Oh, yeah.
So I see the fans saying here, the young fans, especially Panthers, they're like, does it hurt as much in 96 as it does now? Because they're upset now that you're down 0-2, right? Like, compare this series to that way.
Yeah, we were up against it. We were trying to get there. You talked about the Hall of Famers. Well, we went against Pittsburgh, had Mario Lemieux, Jaromir Jagr, Ron Francis. They were loaded up. Same thing with Philadelphia, Lindros, all these guys. And by the end of it, we were just kind of running on fumes. This Panther team, they have the 7-game series against Boston, but dispatched the Leafs in 5 games, Carolina in 4 games. You have a chance to get ready for Vegas, and it goes awry the first couple of games, but they haven't played their best hockey. It's there, it's available for them. There's a much greater feeling from myself that if they play the right way and get back into this, they have a good chance to get back into this series against Vegas. Vegas has played some of their best hockey.
Yeah.
You look at the way they played the first couple of games. Panthers have to be disciplined, stay out of the penalty box, get this groove, get a lead. They got to force Vegas to chase the game. They only had that brief lead in that first period in game number 1, the Panthers. You saw the Panthers, once they have to chase against Vegas and open up, it just doesn't lead for their identity. If the Panthers can play with a lead, get this home crowd into it, you can see a much different result in game 3. And if you get the different result in game 3, it's 2-1. Everything, the whole dynamic of the series changes. It's a critical game. It's a huge game. But there's much more potential with this team in game 3, in my opinion, than we had going up against Colorado in game 3. They were just stacked.
Well, I think you should be giving the pregame speech. Thursday, we'll be back. Our producers, in Toronto, Game Plus, we're going to take an early break. Atlanta as well, WQEE. We're going to take a unscheduled break right now. We'll be right back. More with Bill Lindsay. Get your questions in the Progressive Insurance text line 902-518-3033. We'll return to the Beach House in Pompano Beach, Florida right after this on all those wonderful networks, also podcast and streaming.
Head to youtube.com/The Rod Pedersen Show now. You gotta subscribe. Click the subscribe button for all the content you may have missed.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
In the scenic Qu'Appelle Valley, just 20 minutes northwest of Regina, is one of the finest golf courses in all of Saskatchewan, the Deer Valley Golf Club. The clubhouse has a full-service restaurant, and customers can enjoy a casual dining experience with spectacular views of the golf course and valley. A fully stocked golf shop, staffed by PGA of Canada professionals, is equipped to meet all of your golf apparel and equipment needs. Book your tee time, family event, or corporate tournament today at the Deer Valley Golf Club. Call 306-731-1445.
I gotta hit the beat. I gotta hit the beat. Gotta hit the
Download Dark Horse Bets today.
beat. I gotta hit the beat.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
We're back live at the Beach House in Pompano Beach, Florida, the day before Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Final. Bill Lindsay's with us, Panthers great, NHL Network, Panthers radio analyst. And from the audience, where the heck is it? Kelly, watching in Regina, says, today is Mike Modano's birthday. Wow. Morning all. You would have played against Mo back in the dub, eh? That's how far back you guys would go.
Yeah, Prince Albert and Mike Modano. Wow. Happy birthday.
Born in 19...
skaters of all time.
Wasn't he? The way his jersey stuck out, it was like Lafleur.
You know, it was fast when the jersey would flap in the back, you know, in the wind. You knew that was a fast skater. Mike Modano, too.
His birthday
he had
today.
Hair and warm-up, too.
Just my favorite all-time NHLer. He is. Love him. I should have known it was his birthday, but I can't remember everybody's birthday. I have a tough time with my own birthday. Bill, is also Milan Lucic's birthday today, I will point out. Now, Mike Johnson, who Sarina refers to as my boyfriend, NHL Network. I'm a big fan.
Johnny.
Yeah, he is guaranteed.
Johnny's everywhere.
Hardest working man in the business. And that's what I respect about him.
He just got back from covering the World Championships, right back into the Stanley Cup Final.
He's everywhere. And he does a great job. Yeah. But he guaranteed this series was coming back to Vegas for at least a Game 5.
Okay.
So do you have the sense that this is not a sweep?
I have that sense. Just being around the team, they were even talking about, we're coming back here. We're getting into this place. They were frustrated with the way games 1 and 2 went. Know that it wasn't their best hockey. They got better hockey to play. And they're comfortable being uncomfortable. You have to be throughout the playoffs. They've been in best 3-1 team away when it didn't look like they were yet into the playoffs. So adversity has been something that they've lived with for 3-4 months.
Yep.
And so this team, with what they've been able to do and their comfort zone and their belief, there's still a strong belief there that we're good. We're good enough. We beat Boston. we've had some hiccups here. Things didn't go right against Vegas the first couple of games. They'll straighten things out here at home against Vegas.
Well,
and it's going to start. I believe it does go back to gate.
Yeah,
Vegas,
I hope so. More hockey the better, right?
Yeah.
But I got to say this about your comfort zone. Matthew Tkachuk clearly loves it here, rips around Fort Lauderdale in a golf cart like he'll never leave here, I don't think, even when he's done. But you guys didn't look comfortable in Vegas, just with the way that you played. There's the officiating talk and all that.
Oh, yeah.
But 3 10-minute misconducts and just dumb penalties that this team's uncharacteristic, that they weren't like that.
Yeah.
All year, right? So can you reset and get back to that?
Yeah, so you have to settle into the series. I think actually everyone was talking about the 9 days off and rust. It actually wasn't rust. It was overzealous. You were trying to do too much, especially in that game number 1. You're all over the place. You got all this ramped up energy, and they just said like they were like uncaged dogs being released. And you start doing other people's jobs.
Yep.
You saw it on the opening goal by Marchessault, the first goal of the series. It's on a power play. Brandon Montour goes for a big hit behind the net against Chandler Stevenson, leaves the front of the net
wide
open. There's no reason to go for that big hit. Even on the Theodore goal, Declare, he just runs out and challenges against Theodore. If he just stays back, lets him just kind of get in the shooting lane, that play never materializes. That White Cloud, the game-winning goal, you have 3-4 guys chasing down in the corner trying to hit Eichel. So you did too much in the first couple of games, and it carried over into game number 2. And where you really got hurt in game number 2 is Lombard takes a bad penalty. That's a penalty you can't take. It's a punch at the head at the other person. Montour did the same thing in the opening period. Those couple of penalties leads to Vegas having momentum, and they're able to generate that momentum and carry it on. So that comes down, this team knows when to pick it up and be more disciplined. They have to be more disciplined in their structure, do their own jobs, and also stand out of the penalty box. They clean that stuff up, they're going to have a much better result.
That's my point, is this isn't what they've been all year.
Yeah.
So I'll be...
So that's where the 9 days, I think it's just, there was too much. It's hard to say, but there was too much pent-up energy being released by the Panthers.
I'm just going to back out the focus for a second, because I know what it's like. I've been at Grey Cups and Super Bowls and stuff. You're so hyper-focused on this series. Are you paying attention to any of the rest of the NHL? The hirings of the coaches and so forth?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I know Provorov got traded the other day. And,
well, the reason I ask is our poll question today for Key Auto Group, guys, if you can put that up there, is where does Patrick Roy coach next year? And a word about Key Auto Group when it's time to transition into the world of electrified vehicles. The all-new Niro Hybrid is the perfect first step. Call Key Yorkton Kia at 306-783-2772 or go to keyyorktonkia.com for more information. The 23 Kia Niro movement that inspires. The options are Calgary Flames, Toronto Maple Leafs, Quebec Rempart, or other. And I voted for other because I don't know where he's going.
Someone said the New York Rangers. I can't believe that. I do pay attention. I know the Quebec Ramparts won the Memorial Cup.
Yeah, well, you're following. Okay.
So I know they beat the Seattle Thunderbirds and in the Memorial
wasn't
Cup.
much of a game. 5-0. Yeah. Well, the Rangers came out because there was getting to be a huge.
Does Patrick Roy want to coach in the NHL? Is that affirmed?
I believe so.
So he wants a job in the NHL. Okay. He's had success. In junior a couple of times with Quebec, correct?
2006 and this year.
And then had that brief trial in Colorado. And so he wants to get back behind the NHL bench. And suitors, I guess, the interviews, and they'll see how they'll go. An interesting landing spot. That's...
Well, he was the coach of the year on the National Hockey League in Colorado.
Yeah.
So it's not a small thing.
No.
Right, to win the Jack Adams. So I guess from what you know...
The resume's there.
That's what I mean. Is there something that I'm missing that why he isn't coaching in the NHL now?
Yeah, the resume's there. It's Patrick Roy, so you have the success with the junior kids. You're coach of the year in Colorado, and to me, what you have to look at too is once even a player as great as Patrick Roy, and he gets in, he's had coaching success in junior, and he's had a taste in the NHL at the coaching level. Once you see a lot of coaches, their first stop, and when they go to their second stop or third stop, they're like players. They get better too.
Yes.
They learn from their experiences. So Patrick Waugh, to me, would be a good hire because he's already had one go-round at it, went back, maybe refined things again with Quebec, gets a second. You look at just Peter DeBoer, he started here with the Panthers. Had some struggles, adjustments from junior hockey to the National Hockey League. Goes to New Jersey, Stanley Cup Final, goes over to Vegas, has success, Dallas, everywhere. And it seems like Gerard Gallant has had sort of that trajectory, and you learn how to deal with players at the NHL level. So to me, I would give Patrick Waugh, and if he would be a good hire because he's had the taste of the NHL. He's respected. He's a legend of the game, and he seems to know what he's doing. If you won two Memorial Cups and a Coach of the Year in the NHL,
what more do you want?
Yeah, what more do you want? What more do you want on your resume? So if you're a team out there looking for a guy, Patrick Waugh seems to check off a lot of boxes.
That's what I was hoping to get from you, because I feel the same way. I know he's fiery. And, I mean, you've been around this game a long time. A lot of GMs and owners want a guy they can control, and I don't think you can control Patrick Waugh.
No.
But I also want to win, because I look at Pittsburgh with Ron Hextall. And we had a guy on here, Rob Rossi, the other day, a writer from Pittsburgh. And he said the fans in Pittsburgh never accepted Hextall. And I'm like, well, I wonder why. He was a fire goalie. You know,
yes.
And they said that he was fiery and they couldn't control him. Well, you're never going to control a Ron Hextall.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That just never seemed like a good fit, Hextall in Pittsburgh, to me. Did it to you?
No. Yeah, it was just odd.
Yeah.
So Hextall, it's there, and what you want, if you do hire a player like Patrick Waugh and the GM, you got to be on the same page to some degree. But if Patrick Waugh, the GM has one job. That's kind of assemble the players and the group. But as a coach, what you want as a coach is that you want full autonomy over what you're doing on the ice. GM, you provide me the players. I'm going to do what I want with the players on the ice. I'm going to put in my systems. I'm going to work what I feel like. I'm going to push the buttons and just you do your job. I'll do mine. So there has to be a compliance.
In an ideal scenario, that's how it goes,
yes,
right?
That's where there has to be a compliance between the GM and the coaching staff. And you kind of look at it at the two teams here in the Stanley Cup Final. It's kind of that's what's been done here. Is Bill Zito went out, he made all the player changes, and then Paul Maurice, it's his team. It's fully Paul Maurice's team. He wanted to change the whole systems this year.
And did.
Yeah. So if that's where Patrick Waugh wants to come in and says, these are my systems, this is what I want to do with this team, and a GM feels, okay, yes, that will work with our team. That style of play will fit. And that's where the interview process becomes really important. Because Paul Maurice sits down with Bill Zito and says, you see, I saw the flash and dash that you had last year. But what you're going to have success with in the playoffs, I'm going to have to change this into a heavy forechecking system. I'm going to have to button it down through the neutral zone. I'm going to have to change your style of play. Are you going to let me do that? If you will, I'll coach your team, and that's how I'm going to do it. And then if Bill Zito likes the presentation, yes, you're my coach. Vegas, Bruce Cassidy, they feel that they're on the edge. They make a coaching change with Peter DeBoer gone. And they bring in Bruce Cassidy, just hot and fiery with an older team. And Bruce Cassidy says, I'm going to run these guys hard. I expect and I demand a lot. So that's where the interview process and Patrick Waugh, whatever his presentation is to the general manager, and you feel comfortable with it and the systems then he's going to implement, then you go ahead and hire him.
Yeah. At 58, by the way, I would not have thought he was 58. Although standing on the bench for Quebec at the Memorial Cup, he looked every bit of 58 with a big beard. Yeah. But he can coach. Nothing wrong with the beard. Now, again, Bill Lindsay with us. This is the last segment with Bill. We got about another, not even 10 minutes, and we'll bring Sarina back. But I wanted to ask you this. I was reading the game notes today. From 1996, there was like 4,900 kids playing hockey in Florida.
Yeah.
Did you see this?
Mm-hmm.
Now, 20,000 kids playing hockey in Florida. You've been here through it all.
Yeah.
So can you explain that as you're part of that Panthers Learn to Play?
So the one practice rink that we had up here in Pompano Beach, it was tiny. That was the only rink that we had. And our practice rink, you could touch the ceiling with your stick. And there wasn't there. We had to come out every day and sign autographs outside. We practiced at that rink. We did everything, morning skates. Miami Arena was just for the game, so we'd take the 45-minute trek down there. And that was it. That's all we had for hockey. So the growth from then till now, I'm involved with the Learn to Play programs for the 5 to 9-year-old kids. And we have rinks down to Kendall, which is south of Miami, up to West Palm Beach. We have 9 rinks in between, and we just got a brand new rink built in Boca Raton. And every time we run these clinics, they're sold out. We have 40 to 50 kids on the ice for every session. And when I go down to Kendall, we get a lot of the Spanish kids and the girls. You can see the explosion. Out of the 40, 50 kids, we probably have 10 girls at every ice session. And we got Hispanic kids, the black community comes out, all different. So to just not only see the growth of hockey, but how many different communities it's touched, because South Florida, there's all kinds of different cultures down here. So to see that kind of growth and all the different cultures and communities come and feel involved in the sport, that's what's made it so special to me. And it has been a huge boom. We've touched a lot of different kind of places and been able to get our fingerprints into a lot of different communities.
So what's this run doing for that?
This is it's only going to help it. You are seeing kids talked about, you're getting on the TV everywhere, and everyone that's a casual kind of hockey fan that's ever heard about it, all these Learn to Play kids that I'm teaching and are just new to the game, that they're turning on the game. Wow, I want to continue to do this. This is exciting. So this is when you get to see it, and it's the only game, you turn it on and you see the only 2 teams playing, and one of them is one of the Florida Panthers. Yes, you see the boom that it's happened with just average teams. This is going to take it to another level.
And look at the smile on the man's face. You can tell this is your passion. Like, that's what you started doing.
Yes.
Right? Even before the radio.
The kids with the kids being on there, and to see the progress. It's a 6-week session every weekend. So there's 6 weeks, and they get all the gear. To see their progress from week 1 to week 6 is outstanding. We can barely get them to skate half the time. In week number 1, by week number 6, if you go close to them, they say, just get away from me. I know what I'm doing. I've got this figured out. And they're flying and zipping up and down the ice, and they got the pucks playing the games. It's crazy. From
a viewer in Tallahassee, Florida, the Hockey Club podcast, Corey Pedersen's his name, and I think you might have played against him in the dub. And Pat's great. He says, we need the Learn to Play program up here in Tallahassee. Oh, we also need a rink, too. Come on up, Bill. Road trip. Sounds like a road trip to me.
Yeah, Tallahassee, let's get. Yeah,
how far up does the hockey spread? Because he went to Tallahassee. Did you not, Patty? And you stayed, married a local girl. I'm shocked you don't have a rink there. But how far does your program go up?
So we go all the way from Kendall to West Palm Beach.
That's the range.
That's the range. So that's about 70 miles. And there's 9 rinks in between. So we're constantly rotating those 9 rinks, and that doesn't include the Panthers arena.
So also in the game notes, which we knew, but they reminded us, 4 straight Stanley Cup Finals being played in the state of Florida. What's that done for a hockey?
Yeah.
Right, Lightning 3 and Panthers now 4.
And we also have the rivalry for the first time, because we played Tampa in the playoffs a couple of times. It's the first time that both the Lightning and the Panthers have been good at the same time. So the rivalry has taken it to another level. You see the rabid.
It's real now.
You see the rabid fan base down in Tampa Bay with their Stanley Cups. Now you transfer it to South Florida. Yeah, it's good. And I also saw that I was reading somewhere, game number 1 of the Stanley Cup Final was one of the highest.
Number 2 ever.
One of the highest rated finals viewing of all
Colorado, Detroit was number 1, and I don't think. Detroit, Carolina in 02. And I'm like, Carolina's a small market. I don't get why there would be so much. What do you remember about 02? I don't remember that being so great. Yeah. This seems better to me.
Yeah, so it's everyone's talking about, who cares about these southern franchises being in it? But there's a lot of interest in actually going to that Vegas rink. Oh, my gosh.
The big rink?
Big rink, and seeing it
wild.
firsthand. That's noisy. Carolina and Vegas. your ears explode in those two rings.
First game I saw in Vegas, Kelly McCrimmon texted me and said, "What did you think?" And I was like, I didn't know where to look. There's so much stuff going on.
Yeah, but
it's distracting.
They did a really good job with this seating. Because the top tier is really steep. Feels like everything's just on top of the
ice.
It's
unreal.
So
I still think Edmonton's better, though.
Yeah, you know what? I haven't been to Edmonton.
It's
the new
wild.
rink personally.
Yeah.
So it's there's all the new rinks and what they've done. That's really good for the game.
My last one for you. We got 2 minutes. The Panthers going to be good for a while, or what?
Yeah, we made the playoffs 4 straight years, and we've earned the trust back of our fan base, which is good. So you got Barkov locked up a long time. You got Tkachuk locked up a long time. You got Ekblad. Bobrovsky's going to be here a few more years. Your defense is still good. Your pieces to the puzzle. They're going to be a playoff team for the next 3-4 years with their core. It's the matter of what they keep around that core and how good are they. Do they continue to be a perennial Stanley Cup contender? But the window is wide open still. It's this year. What happens after this year too is you're gonna have salary cap flexibility. Keith Yandel contract still on the book. He comes off the books. Patrick Hornquist, who does a lot for this organization, but his contract comes off the books. Bill Zito is going to have some flexibility in the summer to actually tweak and add more to this roster. So Paul Maurice, even this year, they were expecting this to be kind of a transition year. They did.
Funny how it goes.
Yeah, they were hoping to get into the playoffs. They knew it was going to be a transition year, and they did explode like this in the playoffs. The real year that they were going to try and hit on was next year. It was so their big focus. They hope to be decent and good this year, but they really felt next year with the salary cap flexibility is when that is we're going to assemble the team that we want for the Cup. So they're already here. So expect bigger and better things this summer for
good place
for the
to be.
Panthers franchise.
All right, Billy, enjoy lunch on the beach house. Thanks so much for coming down, and good luck the rest of this.
All right, thank you.
Bill Lindsay, Panthers great, Panthers radio guy, and from the NHL Network. Sarina, the Golden Girl, joins us when we come back. A sports update coming up, an audience takeover as well. We're live on Game Plus Television, WQEE Radio. We're Atlanta's NHL show on the Key. Also podcast and streaming.
Head to youtube.com/The Rod Pedersen Show now. You gotta subscribe. Click the subscribe button for all the content you may have missed.
Hi, my name is Logan Stankoven.
And I'm Connor Bedard.
We're both Hockey Gives Blood player ambassadors and proud to be blood donors.
There are thousands of patients each year in Canada that rely on a generous stranger to save their life.
Please book an appointment today to donate blood at blood.ca/HGB.
I'm Bridget Lacquette. I'm a First Nation Olympic silver medalist, and I'm proud to represent Indigenous hockey players across Canada. Each year, hundreds of Canadians need a stem cell transplant from an unrelated donor to save their life. Anyone can have a hard time finding a stem cell match, but for Indigenous peoples, it can be even more difficult because just over 1% of prospective donors on Canada's stem cell registry are of Indigenous backgrounds. Be a hero. Join me in Hockey Gives Blood in helping to make a life-saving difference to those in need. Register today at blood.ca/beahero.
We're all capable of doing more. More speed, more reps, more commitment to getting every detail perfect. And that's why it's important we never miss a donation appointment. Blood and plasma donors are needed every day in Canada to support thousands of patients that rely on Canada's lifeline. We're asking you to join the Hockey Gives Blood Partners for Life team. Join today by downloading the Give Blood app or book online at blood.ca/HGB.
Selection, service, price, parts, and knowledge. That's the Woody's RV World difference. With 7 locations in Western Canada, there's always one nearby. Visit us today or at woodysrv.com. If adventure awaits, Woody's RV World is with you all the way.
Does this look familiar? Your fans deserve an incredible arena experience. It's time for an upgrade. Stunning graphics. Revenue opportunities are just the beginning with our in-venue display systems and scoring technology. Let us help you find the best solution for your facility. DDG, always delivering the best fan experience.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
We are live from the beach house in Pompano Beach, Florida, and we're on Game Plus Television, the Key podcast and streaming. Big thank you to Bill Lindsay for hanging out with us. He's going to stick around for lunch. And hey, you can bring on Sarina Taylor, the Golden Girl. There's questions for you that we'll get to in a second. Okay. One of which well, this is for both of us. Matt, watching in Woodbridge, Ontario, text in on the 902 line, the Progressive Insurance 902 text line. Hey, it's Matt. It's Game 2 of the NBA Finals tonight, but I haven't heard anything about it so far. I'm interested to hear your take on the matchup. And I was about to say, actually, it's Game 3. And then he sends us that asterisk, meant to say Game 3. Well, we're not the NBA show, but I will say this. The Casilla Center is going to be rocking tonight for Game 3. The Miami Heat home to the Denver Nuggets. The series is tied 1-1. What coverage do you want? We're not the NBA show. Do you have a take on the Miami Heat and the Denver Nuggets? I don't have a sense you would.
Not a huge one because I'm not a huge basketball fan. But I will say the way the Heat played in the last series, that was kind of touch and go. It was hot, cold, and then they squeaked it out. I think the Heat can pull it out, to be honest, just because they had such a good series last year. They played well.
I will twist this around, Matt, to say this. Somebody wrote in earlier, Garrett was the guy's name. He said, is South Florida the mecca of sports right now in North America? And I feel like it's a question that you already know the answer to. It's a rhetorical question. Of course it is. What else is going on? Where else would be the sports mecca? At times, I'm sure it's been Southern California. At times, it's been New York. At times, it's been Toronto. But right now, it's pretty exciting here.
If you're a big sports fan, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, we're just talking, but you lived here a long time. Do you remember it being this hopping?
It's not this hopping. The only reason it's hopping is because we know what's going on. If you didn't know that there was hockey going on until the Stanley Cup Final, you would have no idea. It's just not overran with sports fans around here. I would say there's definitely a lot more Heat fan, but it's not like overrun with like Panthers gear everywhere. You'd have no idea.
Well, people quite often have asked me what it's like, and you tell me if I'm wrong, you will, but people wear their Heat stuff year round. You wouldn't know a difference.
Yeah.
You see a lot of Panthers stuff now, but you don't see it.
Not typically.
The other 10, 11 months of the year.
No.
The sports update is brought to you by Landmark Cinemas in theaters June 9th. That's tomorrow. Transformers, Rise of the Beasts. Returning to the action and spectacle that have captured moviegoers around the world, Transformers Rise of the Beast will take audiences on a 90s globe-trotting adventure with the Autobots and introduce a whole new breed of Transformer, the Maximals. In theaters Friday, Rise of the Beast at Landmark Cinemas. Now, another non-hockey related question. This is for you specifically. From Brian in Beausejour, Manitoba, says, Rod, is Sarina making the trip with you up to the Great White North? Or will she be holding down the fort in South Florida? I just love the Golden Girl and her no-holds-barred, spicy, and on-point sports analysis.
I will be heading back there at some point this summer. Nothing is confirmed yet. But B, thank you for that. I feel like there's so few people that actually speak their truth in the media these days. And I'm not really even in the media, but I certainly don't let it hold me back. I mean, that's just how I believe. You got to be real. I think I've had a lot of people in my life say, tell me how you really feel. I'm like, I'm sorry if that offends you, that I'm being honest with you. Like, I don't know what you want me to say. But that's why, my clients appreciate me, because I'm honest with my clients and I tell them what's going on. That's why they like it.
Oh, yes. Eat Fitness. She runs nutrition. What else we want to say? Fitness overall. Look her up. Coach_Sarina on Instagram. Cine Girl, Cynthia in Pittsburgh watching. She says, always so awesome to see Sarina on the show. She's brilliant. Thank you, Rod and squad. Kevin the Medium writes in. He says, this working for a living is interrupting my Rod Pedersen show time. LOL. Oh, hold. Okay. Thank you, Kevin. So I want to say this. Bill was proud of the stat that in 1996, 4,900 kids were playing hockey in Florida. In 2023, 20,000 kids are playing hockey in South Florida. You got to think this Panthers run's doing a lot for the game here. How could it not?
Because just like what I just said before, if people aren't in the know, they're not in the know. They don't know. You're not going to get a bunch of kids running around that are all of a sudden like, oh, you get those odd kids that go to a Panthers game and they're like, this is what I want to do. I want to play hockey, which is awesome. It's awesome. But the fact that it grew from 4,000 to 19,000 over, what was it, the last 30 years?
20.
Okay, so
7 years.
Okay, so the last time the Panthers were in there, it was growing at a rate of, 600 kids a year in the entire state of Florida. You know how populated this state is? At that pace, it's not going to all of a sudden, it didn't go from 4,000 to 20,000 that year. It's potentially going to move the way it does, but I don't think it's going to make a big jump.
We were quite shocked to learn that the first ever NHLer born in Florida's name is Dallas Eakins. Mr. Bean was born in Dade City, Florida. Dade City, Florida. I can't believe that. I find that quite interesting. Leanne writes in, I told you about her. She says, I vote for Sarina having her own segment on the RP show. What would we call it?
That'd be a lot of things you could call it.
Hot takes with the Golden Girl. How about that? Anyway, I can't think it's anything but good for hockey in the state of Florida that the Panthers are in the Stanley Cup, and there's 4 straight Stanley Cup Finals have been played here. Similar to the Raptors run, got kids playing basketball in Canada. The Rough Riders, Decade of Decadence, got kids playing football in Saskatchewan. That's kind of what I see. Yes.
On the flip side of that, though, really, what does it matter? Florida's not producing solid hockey players
yet.
So per what Bill was talking about, which is an interesting subject, you have a lot. I saw this when I lived in California. California was a little further ahead of the curve because of the times that they had teams. They were a little further ahead of getting kids in hockey. But the thing is this, you have so many transplants that live here. You don't have a lot of Florida-born kids. You have so-and-so's kid, that guy moved here from Boston or New York or Canada or whatever, because it's just built into them. So whether the talent is there or not, it's great that there's more kids playing, but Florida's not producing any great players. We've seen it.
You got to start somewhere. Matthew Tkachuk, born in Scottsdale. Austin Matthews from Scottsdale. Tage Thompson from Scottsdale.
Sure, but look at the stock. I mean, those kids grew up with it.
And who lives here now? Brian McCabe, Roberto Luongo.
But this is the thing. These kids grew up with it in their home. They were playing it in their backyards, in their kitchens, in their whatever. Kids here play hockey year-round.
Am I correct in saying you're anti-Sunbelt hockey?
I'm not anti. It's just, it's completely different. Like, you and I have watched 12-year-olds play hockey here, and it's a lot different than back home. We are submersed in it year-round, but here's the difference. In Canada, the kids don't play hockey every single week. Kids here are playing on 3, 4, 5 different teams a year, and they never stop, and they still can't skate.
Patrolman Pete from Winnipeg says, I find out about all the biggest celebrity deaths on the RP show. I found out about the Queen's death here, which was kind of surreal. I'm not going to lie. And Iron Sheik passing away earlier, but it was not during this show. Speaking of the Queen, I tried to get the Stanley Cup here. Doesn't necessarily look like it's going to happen while we're here. Maybe next week once I go back to Canada, but we tried, and Sarina said, do you want to tell them what you said about the Stanley Cup schedule?
The Stanley Cup has a tighter schedule than the Queen of England had. Guaranteed.
I don't think there's any doubt about that. And Kevin Medium, the Medium, has an idea for the name of the segment. Hot Takes from the Golden Girl, brought to you by the Golden Corral.
I would never step foot in that place again. Well, Rod convinced me to go one time to the Golden Corral, and then he had to take the Moose.
Moose and I went, and we loved it just a couple of weeks ago. Thanks for all you do.
You're welcome.
Appreciate you. Back with overtime after this. One more segment, audience takeover, and more when we return. We are live on Game Plus Television, WQEE Radio, podcast, and streaming.
Have you subscribed to the Rod Pedersen Show YouTube channel yet? Head to youtube.com/The Rod Pedersen Show now.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Nestled in the scenic Qu'Appelle Valley, just 20 minutes northwest of Regina, is one of the finest golf courses in all of Saskatchewan, the Deer Valley Golf Club. The clubhouse has a full-service restaurant, and customers can enjoy a casual dining experience with spectacular views of the golf course and valley. A fully stocked golf shop, staffed by PGA of Canada professionals, is equipped to meet all of your golf apparel and equipment needs. Book your tee time, family event, or corporate tournament today at the Deer Valley Golf Club. Call 306-731-1445.
Does this look familiar? Your fans deserve an incredible arena experience. It's time for an upgrade. Stunning graphics. Revenue opportunities are just the beginning with our in-venue display systems and scoring technology. Let us help you find the best solution for your facility. EDG, always delivering the best fan experience.
Here's how your business can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show. All you have to do is contact us, and we will tell you all about the dynamic and exciting marketing opportunities we have, utilizing a fully integrated 360-degree multi-platform. Imagine your business seen and heard across Canada on Game Plus TV and around the world on the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. You will use one of the most overused expressions in sports. You gotta be kidding me. Get your business involved. Contact the Rod Pedersen Show today.
It's overtime. That is exactly my view right now here at the Pompano Beach House. Moose comes down here 3 weeks ago, and he gets it all figured out that I couldn't. Better internet, better, what do you guys call it? Cut lines, viewpoints? I don't know. I just talk into the mic. And we're all happy. Bob's your uncle. From the audience, we call it audience takeover. The Golden Girl, Sarina, was just dogging the Golden Corral. Nelson, our VP of Sim Events, writes in and he says, I just got back from the Golden Corral in Rapid City, South Dakota. Sarina's take on the Golden Corral is arguably her worst take ever on the show. And as Wayne in Victoria, BC retorts, he says, hey, Nelson, Sarina's a health and fitness guru. What did you expect? LOL. So Moose and I went to the Golden Corral, and I had 3 steaks and 2 pieces of red velvet cake. Happy guy. Ryan in Toronto regarding these Stanley Cup playoffs and this particular final. Ryan in Toronto says, they've been underdogs throughout the playoffs, but I just can't count the Panthers out. I think they take Game 3. Oh, and by the way, Clark, Dad, Rod, thanks, Rod, great show again today. Thanks to everybody, your son, producer Clark, and our entire crew. And just one segment with Moose today. Trying to break it all down. It's going to be a busy several days trying to put a lid on the old anxiety here because be a lot of travel, a lot of stuff going on. In my mind, I'm thinking about today on its own. Spoke to a grade 9 high school class in my home city of Regina, Saskatchewan, Sheldon Williams. And it was about mental health and substance abuse prevention. Because the #1 weapon against addiction is prevention. And at the end, it was via Zoom, obviously. And at the end of the session, we opened it up for questions. And the kid said, who's the most famous person you've ever interviewed? And I said, John Candy, something that I'm so excited to answer. And the kids had no idea who he was. I'm going to be thinking about that for a long time. What do I need to do? I quite often sit there and go, why do you ask me if I got to get my mind around it. From Ryan O Radio, WQEE says, another great show. Go Panthers. That is our radio home. We are Atlanta's NHL show, WQEE, where we are live noon to 2 daily on the Key. From Patrolman Pete. He writes in and says, would have thought Brock Lesnar would be my answer for the most famous person. Listen, you tell me, not that I'm trying, believe me, to connect. What's grade 9s? 15-year-olds? I'm not trying to connect with them. I'm not. What I'm trying is, who is a guy that YouTube stars? Not my thing. Maybe I need to go down here and start hanging out with Tua and these guys. Could do that, I guess. I don't even know that they were sports fans. I don't know. By the time this question comes up again, I'll have a better answer. Jordan Eberle? Obviously. From Ryan in Saratoga, New York, he says, have a great Wednesday, everyone. Enjoy whichever sports you watch tonight. And by the way, I'm glad you brought that up. Sports on Tap. Brought to you by blank. We got the Toronto Blue Jays home to the Houston Astros tonight. This is the third of a 4-game series. Each team has a win so far. In the NBA tonight, it's Denver here at Miami. The series is tied 1-1, 8:30 Eastern tip at the Casilla Center. I like the NBA. I don't love it. And the Stanley Cup Game 3 is literally in my backyard. That's where my focus is. If the NBA Finals were somewhere else, I'd probably be spending more time on that. And in the Canadian Elite Basketball League tonight, it's the Montreal Alliance at the Brampton Honey Badgers in the CAA Center. Last minute of play in the RP Show. From Cindy in Pittsburgh, she says, Rod, those children are so blessed to have your words of wisdom. They just don't know it yet. Well, it's the 10-80-20 rule. 10% get your message immediately. 10% will never get your message. And 80% will get it somewhere down the line. But, yeah, I am living a great life. Walked through fire to get it. It's extremely rewarding. Yeah, I'll just stop right there. Great comments coming in. I don't want to get in any trouble. Tomorrow, it'll be a big CFL day. Today was a big NHL day. Thank you to Dave Naylor, the Golden Girls, Sarina Dawn, and Bill Lindsay. We'll see you at noon Eastern on Game Plus and the Key tomorrow.
Who has more fun than us?